Whoa. Jedi archives or what? Hello. When we reached the research archives, I, as usual, had to stop inside the door and admire it all. Can't blame you. Vaughn had brought me here before, but I just couldn't get over it. Ari paused, glancing back at me.
Morgan?
Sorry. This place always takes my breath away. He cocked an eyebrow, glancing around the large room. Hey, you grew up here. I'm sure you're used to it. I've never seen a library this big before. With the net, there wasn't a need for them. Of course, most of the information in here wasn't accessible via the net for security reasons.
I suppose it is an unusual sight for those outside this organization.
Only a little. I was also always impressed by how busy it was. There were quite a lot of people around, including a table full of junior agents. Casey and Bertie were there. Heidi as well. Oh, joy! I wasn't sure what they could all be working on. Surely they didn't get homework after they'd become agents. Bertie noticed me watching and brightened as she waved enthusiastically. Laughing, I waved back.
You shouldn't encourage her. They were supposed to be working.
I'm sure her work will survive a non-verbal greeting from across the room.
Whoa! This place is amazing!
I stiffened at the sound of Trent's voice, but did my best to force the tension out of my shoulders as I turned to face him. Ari's immediate face just went like, wah. You're a little early.
So are you.
He came further inside, and I prepared myself to step out of arm's reach if it looked like he was going to make another move on me. Ari was already at my side, though, ever the loyal guard dog.
Oh, who's this?
This is Ariel Vaughn. He's my teacher. I thought you might be interested in meeting some other agents.
Did you just say Ariel Vaughn? The highest ranked knight in Endgame?
His loud exclamation caused quite a few people to look our way, including the table of junior agents. Trent, we are in a place where people are working. Maybe lower your voice? And yes, I said that. I wasn't sure he even heard the part where I asked him to lower his voice. His eyes were wide as a huge grin broke across his face. He stepped closer to Ari, holding out a hand.
This is incredible! I honestly couldn't imagine getting a chance to meet you while I was here.
You know him? Of him?
Are you kidding, Morgan? I've talked to you about him before. He's one of the most well-known fairy Espers. In fact, reading about his story got me interested in this branch of research.
Wait, that was... I remembered numerous conversations with Trent gushing over an F-class Esper in Endgame. One that had defined almost everything we had learned about them. That was you?
I suppose so.
I mean, it all made sense. Even Ari had indicated most of what Endgame knew of fairies had learned from him. I just hadn't put it together at the time. Somehow that made all this way weirder. Ari, bewildered, shook Trent's hand, looking like he did not want to at all. Trent was still grinning enthusiastically, even as Ari wrestled his hand away.
Is it okay if I ask you a few questions? I mean, my entire path in life was pretty much defined by reading about you. Meeting you like this is amazing.
Ari took a half step back, clasping his hands in front of him. Might be a little bit stressed.
I don't mind answering a few questions, though much of what I can tell you can also be found in Endgame's records, many of which you should have access to with your current clearance level.
Oh, don't worry. Looking up the research and studies done on you is on our to-do list.
Studies? I mean, it was obvious they'd done studies on him, but saying it like that felt dehumanizing.
Still, that can't compare with talking to you in person. Hey, do you think we could get a demonstration of your abilities?
I am not certain.
My gaze went to Ari's hands. He was rapidly tapping against the back of his left one. Oh, poor boy. Stealing my jaw, I stepped in front of him just as Trent's two companions joined us. Now I will protect my knight. Like chess. I'm moving around on the board like chess. Trent, enough. Ari didn't come here to be interrogated by you. I only wanted to introduce him. I can see you're excited, but shouting at him in a room full of people is not the best way to go about talking to him.
Oh! Sorry. I tend to be a little overenthusiastic sometimes. I didn't mean to come across too forward.
Ari placed a hand on my shoulder, squeezing slightly. A gesture I took as an unspoken thank you. Aww, my heart.
Morgan is correct. We may be able to talk another time.
It looks like your companions are here anyway.
Right. Introductions. We didn't get a chance for it yesterday.
Hello?
This is Gina Taylor, and this is Matt Aries.
It's so great to meet you. Honestly, Trent would not shut up about you the entire trip here. That's... I wasn't sure what to say about it, to be honest.
He neglected to mention your position. Imagine our surprise to discover you are not only an Esper, but a member of Endgame.
There was something odd in his tone of voice. Judgmental, almost. I instantly disliked him.
And a fairy at that.
A flutter of anxiety went through me when he mentioned that. Had Trent told them that? What makes you... And I noticed that Trent jumped in right away.
Come to think of it, I guess that's why Mr. Vaughn is helping train you, right? I still can't get over the fact that you're a queen rank. I had no idea. The first known queen ranked fairy. That's pretty incredible.
Why were you dating this idiot? Was it just for his looks? Was that it? What little noise had been going on around us died instantly when Trent, who clearly had no concept of voice modulation, said that very loud. I cast a glance back over my shoulder, and sure enough, the entire table of junior agents was gaping at us. There were a few whispers, and it was obvious that was it for that little secret. I get the horrible feeling that this is all some kind of giant setup to make Morgan take the fall for whatever is going on Sierra. This is all gonna get pinned on her somehow. Either intentionally or unintentionally, but I feel like she's gonna become a giant scapegoat in this thing. And she's gonna have to go on the run, and then her guard are gonna be like, no, we stand with you, Morgan. And also a couple of friends from Endgame are also like, we'll stand with you, Morgan. Just a gut feeling I have. I'm just like, this is just bad news bears all around. Did he just say fairy? Her? She's F-class! Trent! Seriously?
Oh, was I not supposed to say that?
Though not a secret, Morgan's status was not well known. Certainly not as widely known as mine.
He glanced at the others who were still looking our way.
It appears that is about to change.
Sorry, Morgan. Looks like I'm 2 for 2 when it comes to screwing up, aren't I?
I'm sure it wasn't intentional at all. There had been a lot of explanations after Trent's loud declaration about me being F-class. You know what? I'm giving Trent a lot of heck, but he might actually just be that stupid. And it could be somebody else. I think he's responsible, but he's responsible because he's an idiot. Like, maybe his research assist, like the guy who's a total jerkwad right off the bat. He might be the one that's actually involved, but it's based on the stupid stuff with Trent being like, oh yeah, my girlfriend is totally an F-class Esper, and she did this, and this, and the guy's like, oh really? She could be a possible fairy. This could be very useful. You should reach out to your girlfriend. I'm sure she misses you. Blah, 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 blah. There's so many ways this could go. My brain is going in 1,000 directions at once at possible theories of where the story could go, and none of it is probably coherent, so I apologize. I'm rambling. Anyway, moving on so that the story can actually tell me the story. There had been a lot of explanations after Trent's loud declaration about me being F-class. ARI had briefly left to inform Magnus there was about to be a ripple effect as the information about me spread through the organization. Gina, like Trent, seemed fascinated by my status and story. I felt obligated to give them an explanation of how I'd been discovered. It was an abridged version that did not mention a kidnapping or arrest off the street. Though no one had told me I couldn't share that little tidbit, it felt wrong to share something that would be misunderstood. Or taken out of context. I still wasn't sure where I stood on Trent, much less Gina. As for Matt, I didn't trust him as far as I could spit. He seemed intent on peppering me with questions, some of which were quite personal. This time it was Trent that had to step in and tell him to knock it off. It cemented my dislike for him, but I had to keep that contained. At any rate, all of that ensured their research session was properly derailed, especially after ARI returned. After a couple of hours, we left them there with the archive staff to monitor them. But before that, I'd agreed to have dinner with Trent, ostensibly to catch up. And that was how we ended up in the garden for an after-dinner walk. ARI was nearby, but staying well out of sight. Okay.
I had no idea Endgame kept it quiet that some of their agents are fairies. If I'd known that, I wouldn't have said anything to Matt and Gina. I definitely wouldn't have blurted it out like that.
It's not like it's some big secret. I guess they were worried it would cause even more of a fuss than bringing me here already did. You saw the looks on everyone's faces. Those junior agents were shocked.
Yeah, they seemed a little stunned. I just guess I assumed everyone knew.
Some of them are already a little irate that I'm here. This won't help.
Why would they be irate?
I mean, I'm an outsider to them. Most of them came here as children. Some... well, at least one was aiming for a promotion up to queen rank. And I conveniently showed up out of nowhere. You should be aware how some people view F-class.
I didn't expect that kind of mentality to exist here. I mean, Mr. Vaughn, ARI is well respected, isn't he?
He's been here a long time. I haven't.
Looks like I really screwed up. I'm sorry, Morgan.
Well, you didn't know.
Still, I don't like how they're forcing you to keep hiding who and what you are. You had to do that for years. If they're going to force you to be here, they can at least let you be open about it.
It's not like I was ordered to hide it. It was just suggested I not bring it up.
Right. I'm sure I can guess how suggestions here work. I don't like it. Truthfully, I don't like that you even have to be here. Can you imagine how shocked I was when your mother told me? At least now I know why you didn't contact me after getting the card I sent.
I let that slide for now, though it wasn't the reason at all. I was shocked at first too, and I hated it and was homesick. But I'm here now. There's no point in sulking about it anymore.
You say that, but...
Why don't we talk about something else? Like your research, maybe. What's been going on for the last year? What have you been working on?
Well, I mean, You said you got a report about it after you volunteered to oversee our research here. So you know the gist of it.
But all I got was an overview. I don't understand the relevance of fairy espers to what you're aiming for. No one has worked out how to replicate rank-level psi waves. So what makes you think you'll be able to create tech that mimics some F-class rook?
It has to do with how fairy psi waves work. Well, how we theorize they work. We're here to review Endgame's research to see if we can validate some of our theories.
And? What are your theories?
Well...
He took a deep breath, and that gleam came to his eye. The one he got when he started talking about his research.
We think N-class espers have a unique sort of psi that resonates within an individual's nanosystem.
A unique attribute of nano-espers. As psi originally stemmed from alterations to human anatomy by the nanites for the purpose of utilizing the nanosystem, nanites still play a role in the development and use of psi for nano-espers. Resonance is poorly understood, but seems to involve some sort of synchronization between an esper's psi waves and the trace energy emitted by nanites, causing an increase in their psi capability. The higher an esper's internal nanoresonance, the higher their natural abilities will be. All N-class espers inherently use nanite resonance to utilize their psi, but it is not a trait shared with F-class espers. Rendering a person's nanosystem inoperable can disrupt nanoresonance and cause brief interruptions in an esper's use of their psi. Simply disconnecting an esper's connection to the net does not have the same effect. It requires specifically and fully disabling their individual nanosystem rather than dampening their connection to the rest of the nanosystem or partial nanosuppression. Interesting. Okay.
For ranked espers, this resonance is stronger than other espers. Their nanites help amplify their natural psi in a way that gives them an additional boost. So that's why their scores are so high.
You've mentioned this concept of resonance before, if I recall.
Probably. But there's not a large body of information about it outside of Endgame, since most known ranked espers are here. The type of promotion you mentioned earlier, that's not really something known outside of Endgame in some research facilities. But it's only relevant to a very small subset of infantry-level espers. For anyone outside that small group, the enhancements are dangerous. And if it works, their powers are unstable, or they rapidly go into permanent burnout. We think it's something to do with this resonance. The higher a nano-esper's internal resonance, the stronger and more stable their abilities are. These infantry are the only ones who can slip into a higher level of resonance and increase their abilities.
Those are interesting theories.
The most advanced research on how to boost a person's psionic output is all in Endgame's hands because a lot of that research is illegal.
That makes sense. I still don't see what this has to do with your research, though.
Right. Well, that's the thing. As you know, mechanically replicating psi waves is pretty difficult. We have tech that can create small psionic fields, but artificial psi can only hit about EA 5.6.
I think I read about the EA scale before, yes. Yep. Also, but hold on. What is 5.6? Okay, infantry or unranked, typically.
We theorize that's because we can't replicate nanite resonance with tech.
Okay, that's a fair hypothesis. But what does that have to do with fairies?
This is where it gets interesting. You see, we don't think F-class psi resonates within the nanosystem in the same way N-class psi does. Fairy psi is just inherently different in structure. We suspect, and some of our research confirms, that fairy psi waves have internal resonance, which is why they consistently are stronger than their nano counterparts. That makes their psi waves much more complex at a glance, but nanite resonance doesn't play a role at all.
So if this supposed nanite resonance is the hurdle to replicate more powerful artificial psi, you think you might be able to replicate fairy psi waves more easily?
Exactly. We've had some luck in a lab setting, but there's so little information on F-class Espers. And our test subject pool is small. Most people willing to come forward to be a part of any research are low level. And we've noticed F-class psi waves get more complex the higher a person's score. But imagine if we could replicate specific types of psi waves. Right now, Espers make up such a small percentage of the population. Here on the day side, the higher ranks are mostly in Endgame because they're always identified at such a young age. If we could replicate powerful and stable artificial psi, so many people could be helped. Being able to replicate biokinesis, for instance, would have huge implications.
It sounds more like a Pandora's box, if you ask me.
Is this one of your weird history references? Because I don't get it?
Oh, for the love of... Yes! It's an ancient myth about an amazing box that was given to someone by the gods. She was told never to look into it, even though the box itself was beautiful.
But of course she looked in it.
And it held sickness, death, and innumerable other terrible things, all of which were loosed into the world because she couldn't resist temptation.
You're saying we'll unleash some kind of horrible thing on the world with this research?
There are strict laws in place about this kind of thing for a reason, Trent. There are already weapons that mimic low-level psi waves, and your own theories say the only reason it's low-level is because of this nanite resonance. If you figure out how to overcome that, you think people won't apply it to things like weapons designed to harm? There are some barriers that, once you break them down, there's no going back. The world's forever changed. This could be one of them.
I'm not sure it matters anyway. The ethical constraints on this type of research are pretty strict. We're limited when it comes to practical application, and there are some things we can't test under the Triad's laws and treaties.
Under the Triad, huh? Will that remain true if Syrah can break away?
That's a tough question.
Here we go. This is what we need to talk about. How is it up there? Really?
Oh, that's right. You have a brother in the colonies, don't you?
I do. Though he's the agricultural manager in a fringe settlement. Resny? A small agricultural settlement on Syrah. It is far from the major cities, and its economy is less focused on mining and more on food production for other settlements. Due to its isolated location, it's usually far from any fighting when violence inevitably bubbles up again, but it can still be impacted by a supply shortage or transport blockades.
I won't lie. It was bad when we left. I'm sure it's worse now. Even before the fighting broke out, things were tense. You try to just live your life, but you can't get away from it. Everything up there is driven by the mines, and everyone knows someone in that business. The working conditions there are appalling. Hell, half the people on our team are doing this research because they want to help some family member or friend battling lung rot or Thresher's syndrome.
Lung rot is a disease common among workers of the Syrah mines. It is a disease that directly attacks the lungs and causes the lining to begin to necrotize. Ooh. Lung rot is difficult to treat unless caught extremely early, but continued exposure to the toxins that cause it can cause repeated relapses. It remains one of the leading causes of death among mine workers on Syrah. Another disease caused by the toxic fallout of the Syrah mines. This one does not just affect mine workers, as in some cases, the toxins leak into water systems, for example, meaning people can be exposed in their day-to-day lives. There are some areas of the moon that are heavily contaminated, and there are no available resources to clean up or contain the toxins. Thresher's syndrome is a systemic disease that can affect many parts of the body and can lead to lifelong health issues and even death.
And then with the situation of the new quotas. Not to mention delayed supply deliveries, lack of funding for basic infrastructure repairs and improvements. The taxes are pretty bad too. To be honest, I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. This has been building for longer than I've been up there.
Sounds like you have a lot of sympathy for the dissidents.
Morgan, nearly everyone up there sympathizes with the dissidents. If not because of the mines and other issues, then because New Albion is trying to crack down on the Esper relocation situation. And there are a lot of Espers who don't want that. Almost no one up there agrees with the new restrictions, much less with any of the attempts to deport them back to Arcalis.
So the Esper thing is a big issue there. I didn't realize that.
Why do you think more Espers aren't willing to join up for testing or research trials? I mean, we pay them for it, pretty well too, and it's still not enough incentive for most of them to come out in the open. If they can make it to adulthood without being detected here, then they go up there so they can live the lives they want. But they continue to fear being found out because New Albion doesn't want them there either.
Well, I definitely know what it's like to feel you have to hide it.
At least it's easier to hide it there than here. There, plenty of people are willing to ignore policies or laws. I wish I'd come back sooner. I could have gotten you out of here. I still could, you know.
How's that going to work, do you think?
Well, I was looking forward to seeing you again so much. And now none of it has gone the way I thought it would.
He took my hands, holding them tightly.
I was really hoping to get the chance to say sorry. Sorry for letting things go for so long without a word from me. Everything was so hectic after my arrival. I didn't have time to stop and take a breath for weeks. The power grid was in and out for a month, and we were on emergency reserves. After that, the water reclamation plant went down. We were all helping with the repairs because we couldn't get a proper repair team in. You wouldn't believe some of the issues the colonies face on a daily basis. It takes forever to get anything done. Before I knew it, months had gone by. And then I was too afraid to reach out. Too afraid you'd be angry.
I was. Angry, hurt, worried.
I'm sorry. Can we try again, Morgan? I miss you. Every time something great happened, or we made some breakthrough, I miss being able to tell you about it.
Then why did you never reach out? I couldn't ask that. I didn't want to ask that. I didn't want to rehash these feelings or reopen these wounds. I closed the door on all that months ago. I missed you too. For a long time. And then I had to move on because I didn't think I'd ever hear from you again. I'm sorry, Trent. We can't go back to being like that. That doesn't mean I want to kick you out of my life. It doesn't mean I don't want to hear about your work or accomplishments.
But it means from your perspective, we're over.
Because we are.
I can't accept that.
You have to. Because I had to do it as well.
I can't let you go that easily. I hope you realize that.
I wasn't even sure how to respond to that, other than like, take a hint, bozo! And things were awkward afterward. It didn't take long for Trent to make an excuse and leave, smiling like he always did, promising me we'd talk more tomorrow, saying he was looking forward to really digging into the archives. And I didn't know what to do with myself afterwards. I needed to file my report. There were some things Trent had said I figured were important. But I couldn't make myself go back to my flat to do it. I just stood in place, trying to sort myself out. I was so lost in thought I didn't even sense ARI until he said my name. I jumped at the sound of his voice, having forgotten he was even nearby. He heard all that. All of it. I couldn't even face him. He just stood behind me without moving.
Are you alright? You seem distressed.
I'm okay.
It is alright to not be okay.
I clenched my jaw, trying to steady my emotions. I'm okay. I said it again firmly. Ari stepped around me and I lowered my head because I didn't know what sort of expression I was making, and I Didn't want him to see my feelings all over my face. To my surprise, he placed his fingers under my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes.
Are you really okay?
I'm not sure. Without thinking, I stepped closer and rested my forehead against his chest. Oh! He stiffened as if he was uncertain how to respond to that gesture.
You got to hug the girl.
Yes! Hug the girl! Woohoo! Alright, now we're getting them CGs. Let's go. After a moment, I felt his hands on my back, hesitant and gentle.
You do not have to include Trent's request on your report.
I looked up at him, surprised he said that.
I don't believe it's relevant. It can stay between us.
I laid my head on his chest again, smiling slightly. Thank you. We stood like that for a while, until I was feeling a little more in control of my emotions. Then Ari walked me back to my room, where Vaughn was waiting to hear what had happened and to find out if she needed to beat anyone up. Classic Vaughn.